If you've spent any time watching organizations, maybe businesses, maybe nonprofits, churches especially, you see pretty quickly how fragile things can get when just one person holds all the reins. We see groups make it through tough times, huge changes, only to just stumble. The moment that single, charismatic leader burns out or makes a mistake, you can almost feel the ground shake a little. We're sort of conditioned, aren't we, culturally, to celebrate that one figure, the one carrying all the weight, vision, teaching, admin, care. But what if that very setup is the weak spot, the vulnerability just waiting? So that's our deep dive today. We're unpacking the strategic idea from our sources, the principle of a plurality of elders, and we're setting it against that default model, the lone shepherd.
Yeah, and what's really striking is that this shared leadership idea, it's presented less as an efficient way to run things and more as a biblical necessity for resilience. So the question we really need to tackle for you is, why is this structure so critical, especially now? Because let's face it, churches today are dealing with some intense challenges.
Oh, absolutely. Like rapid cultural shifts, polarization.
Exactly. And just evolving ministry needs.
Mm.
A single leader, well, they simply can't handle that whole spectrum of responsibility effectively without risking serious problems. Shared leadership isn't just nice to have. The sources frame it as crucial for sustainability.
Okay, let's start there then. With the burden on that lone shepherd. It's immense, often invisible. Our sources really lay it out. Think about one person trying to craft a powerful sermon week after week, do serious marriage counseling, make huge budget decisions, cast a 5-year vision, handle staff issues.
All at the same time.
Uh,
All competing for the same limited bandwidth, time, energy, spiritual focus. It's an unsustainable pattern. It
Sure.
feels almost built for eventual failure.
And the consequences.
Right.
They're tragic and unfortunately pretty common, right?
Terribly common. When decisions get made in isolation, burnout is almost inevitable. But it's more than that. Spiritual blind spots, ethical ones, they develop so much more easily. And this is what creates the conditions for moral failure, or what the sources call pastoral implosion.
Right, that term. Let's define that quickly because it's potent. It's not just someone quitting their job.
No, not at all. It's a catastrophic failure. It shatters trust, fractures the whole community and the recovery. Well, it can take years.
And crucially, the sources point out that the congregation's own growth, spiritually, numerically, it often just stalls under that pressure because everything hinges on one person's mood, their health, their stamina.
It becomes this really unhealthy cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah, the congregation puts demands on this one person to be everything pastor, CEO, therapist, theologian.
And in doing that, they inadvertently contribute to exhausting and sometimes, sadly, destroying that leader.
It's a tough dynamic.
It really is.
Right.
And it taps into that cultural pull towards the hero pastor. Our society loves that individual success story, right? The figure who fills the auditorium gets the attention.
We mistake visibility for strength.
Exactly. But the sources are really clear. This structure has an inherent fragility, like a beautiful but very delicate vase sitting on a narrow shelf. One bump.
So if that common way is potentially set up for failure, where's the blueprint for something stronger, something more resilient?
Okay, this is where we really need to look at the scriptural foundation. The sources emphasize that God's design was for leadership to be shared, not concentrated in one person. And the evidence is pretty consistent. You look at Acts 14.23. Paul and Barnabas appointed elders, plural, in every church. Titus 1.5 repeats that, appointing multiple overseers.
So it wasn't an occasional thing, it was the standard pattern.
It was the pattern, establishing a structure that's both resilient and, this is key, God-honoring. And there's a deeper theological reason behind this shared authority that the sources explore. If you connect it to the bigger picture, this plural structure actually resonates with the relational nature of the Trinity itself.
Okay, hold on, that sounds significant. Mirroring the Trinity. How does something that profound translate into, say, running a church meeting better on a Tuesday night?
Well, it fundamentally shifts the dynamic, right? It moves away from a sort of monarchy model towards community. If God himself exists in community, then the leadership of his people should reflect that. Practically, it means authority isn't just tied up in one person's charisma or decisions. It rests in the unified, mutual submission of a team to God's word.
So disagreements can happen.
Oh, absolutely. Rigorous debate should happen, ideally in private, recognizing different gifts, different perspectives. But the goal is always unity, a unified consensus before the team acts or speaks publicly. It builds in a safety check.
And you mentioned this isn't just a New Testament idea. There's an Old Testament example, too.
Right. Let's unpack that one because it really highlights how God's design anticipates human limits. Think about Moses in Exodus 18.
Jethro's advice, yeah.
Exactly. Moses is overwhelmed, trying to judge every single dispute himself. And his father-in-law, Jethro, sees this and says, essentially, this isn't good. You'll wear yourself out.
So he tells him to appoint capable leaders under him.
To diffuse the responsibility, share the load. And think about this. Even Moses, who spoke face-to-face with God, wasn't meant to carry it all alone.
Wow. That really reframes the idea of solo leadership, even for someone incredibly gifted or called. Human limits are part of the equation.
They are. Limitation is a constant, and God's design provides a structure for it, layers of capable leaders. It's a system built for the long haul because it anticipates where the human leader might break down.
Okay, so that shared design, that's where the resilience comes from. Instead of one potential breaking point.
You have interwoven strength, which leads to that great metaphor the sources use, woven strength.
Yeah, I like that image. It makes you think of Ecclesiastes 4.12, right? A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken.
Precisely. A plurality of elders is meant to be like that. Individual threads, maybe different textures or strength, but interlace to form something much stronger, something that can bear weight.
So what makes that weave strong? What are the principles holding it together?
The sources highlight a few core ones. First, and maybe most obviously, mutual accountability.
Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly that proverb. This structure means elders are responsible to each other. It keeps people humble, honest, spiritually aligned. It's a safety net against pride, against error, against the isolation that can creep in for a solo leader. It means the leaders themselves are being looked after, shepherded, just as carefully as they shepherd the flock.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. What about deadlock? If you have, say, 3 elders, all with equal authority, what happens when they hit a major disagreement, like on the budget or the church's direction? Doesn't shared power risk just grinding to a halt?
That's a really important practical question. And it's why the way they function together is so critical. It's not just about having multiple people. Healthy plural leadership, as described in the sources, focuses on reaching consensus based on biblical principles, not just taking a vote. If a team truly can't find unity on something vital,
It's a red flag.
it's often a signal. Maybe they're trying to move too fast, ahead of God's timing or clarity, or maybe there's unresolved conflict, even sin, blocking their discernment. The goal isn't just to break a tie, it's to wrestle together until they are unified, seeing that unity itself as confirmation.
Okay, that makes sense. It forces deeper work.
It does. And this ties into the second principle, diverse gifts and wisdom. Let's be honest, no single person has all the gifts needed to lead effectively. The sources use this great illustration. They call it the tapestry church. Imagine a leadership team.
Okay.
One elder is a phenomenal preacher, really gifted at casting vision. Another is quieter, maybe excels at personal pastoral care, one-on-one discipleship. And the third has this sharp administrative mind, keeping finances sound, ensuring things run smoothly.
I see. So the strength isn't just in numbers, it's in the combination of gifts. The preacher might overlook the details the administrator catches.
Precisely. They cover each other's blind spots, fill the gaps. It creates a much more holistic oversight for the church.
And that naturally leads to sustainability, right?
Absolutely. That's the third principle. Sustainability and continuity. We've all seen or heard of ministries that basically crater when the main leader leaves.
Yeah, suddenly there's this huge vacuum.
Plurality helps prevent that. When responsibilities are shared, if one elder gets sick or takes a sabbatical or moves on, the church keeps going. The ministry momentum isn't totally stalled. It avoids that devastating leadership vacuum.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, biblically sound, practical benefits, but let's talk reality. Moving from theory to practice means hitting that cultural headwind you mentioned.
Yeah, the chief mentality.
Right. If a congregation is used to looking to one person for everything, the final word, the main face, how do you actually shift that culture? How do you convince them that authority is now shared among a team? And that's a good thing.
It's definitely a challenge. It requires a very conscious, sometimes difficult cultural shift. And it starts, really, by redefining how success is measured. Meaning, success can't just be about the charisma of one person or how many people show up on Sunday. The metrics have to shift. How healthy is the team spiritually? How faithful are they to Scripture? How mature is the congregation becoming collectively? The focus moves from a personality to shared principles.
So the elders themselves have to embody this shift.
They absolutely have to. They need to function as a kind of living sermon. They have to model what they preach.
Like Jesus taught, right? Greatness through service, not dominance.
Exactly. The team needs to demonstrate humility, genuine mutual submission, servant leadership. That includes how they handle disagreements, rigorously debating in private, yes, but always presenting that united front publicly. That builds trust.
And to make that shift really stick, to make it part of the church's DNA, it takes more than just hoping everyone gets it. It needs structure, intentionality,
Which brings us to the elder team covenant.
the formal agreement.
Hmm.
Why do you think some leadership teams shy away from actually writing something like this down? Seems logical.
Well, honestly, I think it's because it makes accountability concrete. It moves things from a vague understanding, maybe a handshake, to clear shared commitments.
It removes the wiggle room.
It removes the comfortable ambiguity, yeah. The covenant forces the team to actually codify things that are easy to agree on verbally, but harder to live out consistently. It becomes the spiritual DNA of how they operate together.
So let's break that down. Based on the sources, what does this covenant, this spiritual DNA, actually codify? What's in it?
Okay, several key things. First, a commitment to personal holiness and self-examination. Leadership health starts with the individual heart. That has to be foundational. Second, it formally outlines biblical conflict resolution.
You mean like using those Matthew 18 protocols we hear about?
Exactly. Having a clear, agreed-upon biblical process for handling disagreements within the team, starting one-on-one, escalating carefully if needed. It's about preventing internal issues from becoming public disasters or poisoning the team's unity.
So it's a mechanism for health and repair within the leadership.
Precisely. Third, the covenant mandates a commitment to unified decisions. We touched on this, the idea of third debate in private.
But absolute unity in public, no undermining each other.
Right. The team must agree to support the final decision publicly, even if they initially had reservations. And finally, it formalizes the commitment to shared burdens.
Actively distributing the pastoral care, teaching, admin.
Yes, to intentionally prevent burnout and stop any one person slipping back into that unsustainable soul shepherd role.
Okay, so stepping back, what does all this mean for a church or an organization's actual longevity?
It means that plural leadership isn't just, a committee or bureaucracy slowing things down. It's framed as a profound theological statement. It acknowledges our human limits, our frailties,
And reflects God's nature.
and reflects the communal, resilient nature of God himself. It's the intentional antidote, really, to the instability that's just baked into the hero-pastor model.
So that's the core benefit for you, the listener, to take away. This model, this woven strength, it's designed to sustain the church, to protect its members from unchecked mistakes or blind spots in leadership.
And to cultivate real, godly wisdom across generations. The health and future of the church become tied not to one personality, but to a qualified, collaborative, accountable team.
Okay, a final thought then, building on that imagery. If leadership really is more like the harmony of an orchestra, all these different instruments, different gifts, playing together under God's direction, rather than the brilliant, maybe, but fragile performance of a soloist, then what assumption about personal control, about needing to be the soloist, might you need to intentionally release this week to start building that kind of collective strength in whatever context you're in? And maybe more practically, if your team is aiming for that harmony, is the agreement holding you together just a handshake, just an assumption? Or have you actually written the score? Have you created that covenant that defines your rhythm together and protects your shared future?